Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Welcome to Publicis Sapient again. It's a great pleasure to see you all. This is our second, this is the second time that we're hosting the event, and hopefully we're going to have more of this event coming up soon. In case you need the password to log into our Wi-Fi, this is the chance that you get now. You have 1 minute before I change the slide. Are you all good? Yep. Cool. And because I've been asked by the health and safety team to go through these very, very informative slides, in case of an emergency, we need to evacuate the building, as you'll know. Now, the way that we do that is there are two kind of like sets of stairs in this direction where the toilets are. Pretty much just follow me. This time around, last time we had a couple of volunteers to help us, but this time it's just me. So just follow me. We're going to go outside over to exit. So the assembly point is on this side of the road, and then one of these side kind of like roads up there. All good? So hopefully we're not going to have. And does anybody have any mobility issues, by the way, or requires any special assistance? No? Oh, good, right? Okay, cool. So we are here in the Mimic Bay, one of those staircases. So who are we? Publicis Sapient is one of those companies. It's a digital agency. So we are part of Publicis Group, which is a kind of like a family of different companies together. We mainly do like digital products. So we have our creatives, that they are part of the marketing and design team. We also have our software engineers, and then we work with different clients. Mainly, what are we? I suppose, we kind of like, we provide pretty much technical people to different companies to enhance their digital products, etc. Before I move to the other slide, actually, we have a special person with us today, and I'm really glad that he joined us. His name is Richard. He's there. Richard used to be the director of our software engineering team here at Publicis Sapient. Unfortunately, he left us during the pandemic. We didn't really get the chance to say goodbye to him properly. So if you can join me to give him a big round of applause. Getting quite emotional now, sorry. When I joined Publicis Sapient, that was because of this gentleman here. At the time before the pandemic, we were all like a family, and that's again because of this person here. We all kind of like used to gather on Friday afternoons. He had negotiated with our clients that all the XT community will come together, and we used to do like our catch-ups, monthly catch-ups, and then have our team bonding activities. It was probably the best times. We don't have that anymore, unfortunately. Since the pandemic, we kind of like became segregated in different groups. But yeah, that was definitely, memories that are worth keeping. So thank you so much.
He destroyed your family, is what I'm saying.
His leaving did. His departure did. So yeah, I'll pass it to Akash to give you the rest of the boring stuff.
Yeah, give it up to Nico and the Publicis Group for hosting us today. Firstly, I guess. I'm not forcing you to clap. We genuinely have a lot of difficulty in finding venues. So yeah, thanks Nico for arranging that. Svelte code of conduct. I think if you go on the website, it's pretty straightforward. We tolerate no form of harassment here, of course. If you want to like confide in someone, there's Scott, who's the main lead guy for Svelte London. There's me, Akash, who you can reach out to, or like Willow as well, who will helps us run this meetup, and Kane as well. Yeah, sorry. So yeah, reach out to any of them if you want to. And agenda for this evening. So firstly, thanks to all of you for coming around on before the Easter holiday for a Svelte meetup nonetheless. And I think we're all pretty excited to see what's on today. So firstly, Lowell's gonna give a talk about everything old is new again. I think it's about his experience with Svelte. If you don't know Lovell and his work, you should check out Sharp on GitHub. I think you must have used it in some form in the past. And then Nico. So yeah, I don't think Nico introduced himself well, but then I think he's going to do that during his part of the talk, where he's going to talk about building an AI chatbot with Sveltekit. So yeah, Lovell, why don't you come on stage then?
Oh, it's a Mac. Is the cracker going to work?
Yeah.
Is it working? Is it going to work? Oh, it does work.
It works.
All right.
All right.
You could probably go
In the middle. Thank you very much. My name is Lovell Fuller, and I'll be talking to you today about everything old is new again. You might recognize my name because I maintain a library called Sharp. So can a quick show of hands, who in the room here has heard of Sharp?
I've told everyone about it.
And have you actually used it? Keep your hand up if you used it. Okay, and keep your hand up if you had a problem trying to install it and got loads of errors. Yeah. It is getting better, I promise you. Yeah, so for those who don't know, Sharp is a JavaScript library for image processing, been around about 10 years. It's used in lots of things, including the enhanced image component for Svelte. So you might have actually used it without realizing it if you're using this package of Svelte. Anyway, I'm not here to talk about Sharp, I'm here to talk about Svelte. Now, disclaimer time. I started using Svelte a couple of months ago. I've probably used it for about 2 or 3 weeks in total. So I don't know what I'm talking about. If I make a mistake, please correct me. Come and talk to me afterwards if I've got it something horribly wrong. Okay, I want to learn from this experience, all right? Also, because I'm new to Svelte, I'm focusing exclusively on Svelte 5 and Sveltekit 2. So these are the latest versions. In fact, I think Svelte 5 is not even out yet. So I've been really focusing on all the new stuff. So that means I don't have to care about all the things that have gone on in the past, all the problems, all the arguments and discussions and things. I don't care. I'm sorry. Just focusing on Svelte 5. All right, so the first thing I did, like many other people when they go to learn about Svelte, is they go to the Svelte website. There it is. And to the average passerby, the Svelte website is kind of like a kind of mostly grayscale website with a kind of an orange logo at the top left-hand corner. But it also has this rather interesting phrase in the middle here, cybernetically enhanced web apps. Now, I've not seen that before. Certainly as a description of web app. So I was like, what does that mean? Cybernetically enhanced web apps? A bit weird. So I went on the discussion forums, like someone must have raised this before, they have. There was a discussion, and there was, at the end of it, someone said this: cybernetically sounds 100% like 80s Robocop corn. To which Rich Harris replied, yes, it's our goal. JavaScript tools are boring. We shouldn't take ourselves seriously. Cybernetically, I was thinking, well, I wasn't really thinking of Robocop. Cybernetics has been around for a long time. And there's a big movement in the 1960s around cybernetics. Things like the space race were causing this. And so if I want to learn about a word and about the history of a word over time, I'll always go and use the Google Books Ngram Viewer. So for those who haven't seen this before, it's a really good tool. It tells you about the history of a word over time. They've got data going back about 150 years, and it's about the uses of words in print, online, wherever. So you can find out when a word was most popular. So here's a search I did earlier, cybernetically. And you can see that the word cybernetically has never been more popular than it is today. There we are. That's us, right? However, the more astute will notice there's something else going on over here. Look, the little maxima. So you've got the 1960s cybernetics, big thing, getting someone onto the moon. Here, this local maxima is 1972. So cybernetically was most popular in 1972. What else happened in 1972? Small talk. Hands up if you've heard of small talk. Hands up if you've used small talk. 0. Brilliant. I should have kept my hand up there, actually, because Adele Goldberg and Alan Kay were the original authors of Smalltalk specification in 1972. They went on to do lots of really good things. Adele Goldberg was pretty much instrumental in a lot of the UI that's in MacOS that we use today. Yeah, she's a great computer scientist. Another person who was active in that era was this guy. This guy's Wilf Lalonde. Now, obviously, this was taken a few years ago, this picture, probably 70s, judging by the corduroy. It just so happened that he is or was a lecturer at Carleton University in Ottawa in Canada. And it just so happened that I went to university at Carleton University in Ottawa in Canada. So he was one of my lecturers and he taught me Smalltalk. He even wrote the book, Discovering Smalltalk. Now it's completely, it's a brilliant language, but completely useless for anything outside of academia. Obviously you haven't used it, so I'll explain a little bit about it. It's a pure OO language. Everything is a class. You don't, there's this function-based stuff. No. It's a class, it's an object, that's all you've got. But it's so many things that we do today originate from Smalltalk, lots of design patterns. And that includes this. This is the value model, value holder pattern. So this comes from Smalltalk. And what it means is that it's kind of an abstract class that holds a single value. So you have, for example, a getter, you have a setter, and you have an update function. That's it. That's all you can do. That's all it does. It also does this though. It informs dependence when the value changes. So this is really good. So you can have classes that register other classes with each other and say, well, look, hang on a minute. I want to know when your value changes. You might be able to see where this is going. It also has a couple of extra things to do with how those messages get passed around. So an aspect adapter allows you to find out when a particular property of an object has changed. Index adapter is when a particular element in an array of objects has changed. Again, you can probably see where this is going, because we now know that as signals. Yep, all the big JavaScript libraries from the last 10 to 15 years, all using signals. I'm thinking of things like Knockout.js, Solid.js. I think Vue 3 now uses signals. Guess what? Svelte 5 uses signals. Finally, all these things all eventually come around to doing exactly the same thing. But in Svelte, of course, they can't call it signals because it has to have a kooky name, and that name is runes. So hands up, everyone heard of runes in Svelte? Yeah, most people have got that now. Good, excellent. So I'm not sure why they called it runes. I'd have called it Norse code. Hey, sorry. And I actually took this to an extreme. I had a little play with some runes, and I wrote this code. So this is genuine code. This code at the bottom here actually works. What? I know. It works. Those lines at the bottom, that works. That's how you do it. You can see what I'm doing there. Anyway, please don't do that. I was just taking it to an extreme. But if you want to do runes, that's how you do runes. Anyway, I'm going to talk about code for a minute. I'm going to talk about something else. So back in 1999, I finished university, and one of my first paid jobs was working for Orange, mobile phone company. Orange doesn't really exist in the UK anymore, but it's still huge in mainland Europe. France, it's massive. It's everywhere still. So I used to be the webmaster at Orange. What a great job title. That doesn't exist anymore, right? You don't hear of webmasters. You don't search for webmaster on LinkedIn these days. But I was the webmaster at Orange. So if you sent an email to that email address, it came to this guy. And after about 2 weeks of working there, there was a whole team of people to answer emails because I got too many. I couldn't do that and actually do some coding instead. But yes, I was webmaster at Orange. And what we used to do was look after parts of the website. But this is 1999, right? There aren't any web frameworks at this point. Everyone's just basically making it up as they go along. So we use what I like to now refer to as the HCS framework. HTML, CSS, and spacer.gif. CSS layout engines were terrible in the 90s. They didn't work properly. Everything was a one-by-one transparent GIF, and you used that to space absolutely everything out. And that was all we had. HTML was good. Yeah, that was a good thing. Let's keep using that. Actually, to be fair, we did use a little bit of JavaScript, and there was a whole load of Perl CGI bin. It's that era of, thank you, that era of development. And we made things like this. So this is for the average passerby. This is a mostly grayscale website with an orange logo at the top left-hand corner. A lot of spacer GIFs as well behind that one. Luckily, the world moved on, realized that we probably couldn't create websites in a sustainable way using nothing at all other than spacer GIFs. And people started to think about other design patterns. And MVC came along. Now you can probably know what this one stands for. Anyone? MVC? Very good. Model View Controller. Guess what Model View Controller comes from as a design pattern? Smalltalk. Excellent. And so in the kind of, I guess mainly sort of early 2000s, lots and lots of frameworks came out which are all using the MVC pattern. So at this point, I switched from doing Perl to doing lots of Java development. Struts framework is a really good example of this. And struts also allowed you to use a templating language for the view called FreeMarker. I ended up working for Thomson Reuters for a few years, working in the kind of the legal and tax and accounting stuff. Now, this is the website. So to the average passerby, this is a mostly grayscale website with an orange logo at the top left-hand corner. And we used MVC, we used struts, and we used FreeMarker templates to generate a lot of the pages for this. Now, here's an example of a FreeMarker template. Yeah, everyone got a little look at that one. Everyone can see that okay? So it's just outputting some information about the user. There's a couple of conditional statements. There's a loop here list. And I thought, well, it would be really interesting to see how that compares with Svelte templates. So let's have a look at the Svelte template version of this. There we go. I'll just switch back just in case you didn't see that. FreeMarker. Svelte. FreeMarker. Svelte. Very similar, right? You see, so a 20-year-old technology, FreeMarker templates, still being used today in Svelte. Excellent choice. Well done, Svelte. Correct, right thing to do. Brilliant. Okay, so now I've spent a bit of time looking at things about templates in Svelte, and I'm the sort of person who likes to look under the hood a little bit, just to see, you know, how's this stuff work? So has anyone ever looked into some of the source code for Svelte? Anyone? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Good. Excellent. So the way that those templates and everything else is converted into actual stuff that can run is a three-stage process. There's a parse, there's a analyze, and there's a transform stage, 1, 2, 3. It's all built under the hood on Acorn.js, which is an abstract syntax tree parser, and a hell of a lot of regexes. My word, there's a lot of regexes in that code. But yeah, if you like 10 minutes, 15 minutes spare, dive in, start having a look through. It's fascinating stuff. But yeah, the crux of it all is Acorn. It's this abstract syntax tree. Guess where abstract syntax trees come from? Small talk. Fantastic. There we are. Now, here's another bit of code. This is also, I mean, you don't have to understand it. Don't worry, it's quite small. It doesn't matter. But it says walks the AST. So this is some code that walks an AST. Now, this doesn't come from Svelte. This comes from another JavaScript framework. And that framework is Fax.js. Anyone recognize Fax.js? Anyone? Anyone? No? No? Okay, I'm surprised. So Fax.js Web Interface Toolkit. You'll probably recognize it under its new name, which is React. So Fax.js is what turned into React. Now, I showed you there that there was an AST parser in Fax. So the thing that led to React had a compile time thing to do AST parsing to create optimized code. But yet React didn't inherit that. It inherited all the CSS and JS stuff. It didn't inherit the build time stuff, which Svelte has and makes it a really good tool. A bit unusual, that. So React, I mentioned React there. I was using React about 10 years ago. And the reason that I was using React is because we had to support Internet Explorer 8 back in 2014. Now, at the time, there was probably like sort of 20–25% market share still on IE8. Now, this is a terrible browser. I mean, IE6 was bad, but IE8 was also really, really bad. It was actually really difficult to do testing as well. We said that, yeah, so the testability. So the automated tools for testing stuff in browsers it was just all bad, and you end up doing lots of manual testing. And then suddenly React came along. I was like, wait a minute, we can write unit tests for our components. We don't have to worry about testing stuff with your browser anymore. So absolutely the right choice 10 years ago. And so one of the things I created in React, I worked with a team that did a migration for Science Direct, working for Elsevier. Now, to the average passerby, this is a mostly grayscale website with an orange logo in the top left-hand corner. Also, it just happens to be an article about boosting a weak learning algorithm by majority, which is an article from 1995, which then led on to become Ada Boost. We'll hear about that, I'm sure, in Nico's talk after this. So as I said, React was good 10 years ago. It's a really good thing to be doing then. However, in the last 10 years, certainly sort of 5 to 10 years ago, there's so much more improvement in the web platform. It became more stable, you had more APIs available, ECMAScript itself advanced. And I think that's where Svelte really kind of come into its own, is to be able to take advantage of that stability. I think, how old is Svelte now? Like 6 years old, maybe 7 years old? Yes, I think it's really benefited from that. So Svelte's very good. I'm not going to tell you why Svelte's good. No, I think most people here understand why it's good. However, there are problems. It's not all rosy in the world of Svelte. So what is the opposite of Svelte? Anyone? Opposite of Svelte? The closest I could get was frail, which is an old English word, which means frailty or weakness. So these are the weaknesses I found in my 3 weeks of using Svelte. This. Everything's called pluspage.svelte, which is brilliant when you've got an IDE that's absolutely full of files called .page.svelte and trying to find it. Like, what? This is, to be fair, the tooling's not good enough. And I did think about this for a while, and I thought, well, wait a minute, if I go to like another site, like a static site, it's full of index.html. And 15 years ago, it's full of index.php. So it's a kind of a normal thing to have lots of things to the same file. So I'm hoping that the tooling will catch up and VS Code will just make this a better experience. Because when you've got 20 tabs all with the same name, this error. Trying to open a pluspage.svelte file at the command line doesn't work. Try to open it in Vim. I mean, I'm a big command line user. You can't open plus files that start with a plus symbol in Vim. You have to put quotes around them. So a bit annoying. This is a page.server.ts file. And this is the stuff that happens on the server side for each page. Now, one of the things about Svelte is it's supposed to reduce the amount of boilerplate. But actually, what I've had to do here is put some authentication boilerplate in. So at the top of every single server file, I have to say, oh, wait a minute, have I got a user? If I haven't, I need to redirect to the sign-in page. And I could probably encapsulate that a little bit better. But you generally, for the cross-cutting concerns, you're having to add a little bit of boilerplate in there. So it's not perfect. Client-side errors, there's no way of catching them by default. So if you generate a client-side error, they just barfs in the browser console, but you don't know this, and the app just stops responding. Like, well, have I got something wrong? There's nothing in any of my consoles anywhere. Oh, there is this tiny little error here. Yeah, so it forces you in your client-side code to have really good error handling, which I have to say is, again, it's not a bad thing, but it forces you to do it. I don't know if that's intentional, but that's certainly the experience I've had so far. A few people I've seen complaining about a lack of partial hydration island architecture. To be fair, I don't really care about this. I mean, if you're doing a mostly static site with a little bit of interactivity, Svelte's probably the wrong solution anyway. I tend to use something like 11T for that instead, so I don't care about that one. The auto adapters, really, really cool in theory. In practice, what gets deployed isn't the same as what you're running locally, and you don't know that it's not quite the same. Most of these are all built on a tool from Vercel called NFT, node file tracing. It's kind of like tree shaking for require statements. And it's full of edge cases, and it's a little bit brittle. So not perfect. I think some work could be done there to improve that. But actually, all of this stuff is developer experience. So it doesn't really matter, because ultimately it's all about the user experience, right? It's about the websites and the web applications that we're creating. As long as they are good, then everything else doesn't really matter. And Svelte's very good at that. This is brilliant. Accessibility warnings when you're doing, I mean, that's fantastic. And I think a couple of the frameworks do this as well. But the fact that you get like sort of real time in your IDE, you've messed up this stuff for accessibility purposes is like blew me away when I first started seeing that. Absolutely brilliant. This fantastic feature. For those who haven't used Svelte before, you can import environment variables from a special private file. And Svelte guarantees that that will never make its way into client-side code. I have definitely, in the past, seen keys and tokens and secrets leak into client-side code. This stops it dead, which is really good. It's obviously really good for end users because it means that we don't leak their data. They don't want to be seeing our Postgres password anyway. And also the environmental impact. Svelte is all build time. The JavaScript bundles that are created are significantly smaller than any other framework I've seen. Ship less JavaScript. Not only is it less bandwidth, but also it's doing so much less processing. The impact of that is, cannot be underestimated. But ultimately, it's about the community. We're all here today, right? I don't know if anyone noticed on the way in. That's the door right there. We're in an office building called Turnmills. And did anyone see the name of the meeting room we're in? The gallery. Does anyone work in this building? Nico, you work here, right? Anyone else work in this office building? Do you know why this room is called the gallery? I think Scott might know. The reason that this room is called the gallery, in fact, all the meeting rooms in this building have certain names, is because where we're standing right now used to be a nightclub. And that nightclub was Turnmill, and they had a club night every Friday called the Gallery. And I used to come to this on a fairly regular basis. So I was like, I know, basically, the community, and actually there was a big sense of community at the gallery. You'd come and you'd see people there every Friday. And I thought, actually, it's a really nice fact that I'm coming back to pretty much where I was 20 years ago, to a welcoming community. I was like, how good is that? So actually, it is the community that makes Svelte. Friday, usually on a Friday. Today's Thursday. So yeah, it's great to see, that the Svelte community is happening. I have to say, this is only my third meetup I've been to, right? And everyone's been really welcoming. So thank you very much. Thank you for having me. And does anyone have any questions? Did anyone spot any mistakes? What did I get wrong? Which one? The runes. Just type them in. Yeah, just Unicode symbols. Where was it? Oh, you're making me go back too far.
At the very beginning.
Was it really? Oh, come on.
I just really want to see all the slides.
See my terrible joke again. There we go. Please don't do this.
It's at the bottom.
That's state. That's derived. That's your Boolean type. And that's your number type. That's an N. And then that's I and that's J or something, I think. Well, all right. Thank you. I will share the slides later if anyone would like to copy this code. Please don't. Is that a question?
Yeah, so let's do this properly. So yeah, when you were studying, you studied under the guy that wrote that amazing useless programming language, right? But it can't be that useless, surely, if it defines some of the most important paradigms in programming. So I mean, it's I'm really interested in the story of that. I mean, how did that not succeed, or how was it only used in academia?
Yeah, I guess it was quite pure. It was just too pure. So yeah, the question is about small talk. Why small talk didn't succeed? Is this the London Small Talk Society? I don't know. Oh, there. Okay, good. Maybe we should ask that question there. Why didn't it succeed? I think it was just a bit too pure. It wasn't. It never really kind of solved problems outside of the academic domain. But it has, as you say, it's been hugely influential. Yeah. The whole concept, design patterns, comes from that. Yeah, so definitely not. It's perfect to learn at university. I mean, I also learned Lisp, right? It's like, how useful that's been. Not sure. Sorry, another question.
Because basically I used it. So I was working for IBM, and in mid-90s, IBM had this kind of series of environments called Visual Aids something. So they started with, it was Visual Aids COBOL, it was Visual Aids Smalltalk, and then Visual Aids Java. And I was using it. And we made apps for SAB, for telecommunications and stuff. But it was very difficult for people to accept it because it didn't look like any other language, right? So it was powerful and everything, but it was scary. And the other thing was the performance. Essentially, you couldn't get the best performance out of it, even though they built some compilers and stuff, and they improved it. And then the other thing is you were getting the runtimes that were really large, because essentially you were embedding the Smalltalk language with your application. So these things were not separate; they were one thing. And that's. But I know that actually there's a web framework or something, or something C related or something that people are still using. Yeah. I haven't used it for 20 years now. So
No. I started using it in '96 and stopped using it in '97. I mean, that was it. All right. Any more questions? Thank you. Right, all good. All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Lovell. So yeah, oops, I think I have to exit this right now. Nico, do you want to get your slides up? All right, so I think we have mostly gone through all of the technical difficulties right now. And yeah, we are going to have Nico giving the second talk. So Nico. Okay. Looks like we have still not gone through all of the technical difficulties there. Yeah, let's clap for Nico. Yes.
Oh, thank you guys. That's probably the only applause that I will get in my life. Unfortunately, this is going to be a small talk, no pun intended. Originally, I apologize. Originally, I was meant to show you an AI chatbot that is able to read your data and answer your questions. Unfortunately, today, my app broke. So I ended up doing a slimmed down version of that, hence a small talk. Again, no pun intended. And now I cannot even demo you anything at all. So you have to bear with me to go through these annoying slides, and hopefully we'll get something out in the end of it. Now a few words about me. I am Nico, or Nicholas, as my parents like to call me when when I do something wrong. I've been here at Publicity Sapient for 5 years now. And this fancy title here pretty much means I'm a junior developer, still aspiring to be a mid-level developer. One of those things. Now, outside of my normal day-to-day job, I am kind of like supporting a project that we do with one kind of like community tech company called Outlandish, and as well my former bootcamp co-founders at Queries, where we kind of like allow graduates from bootcamps to work on charity or non-profitable projects, and that's called Liftoff. So if you know any charities or freelancers, anybody that looks for an affordable website, feel free to reach out. We have plenty of graduates that want to get some experience and also offer to the community back. And also I'm part of recently I've joined the Oxford Pride committee. Every year we run different events for the LGBT community, and this year, if you wish to join us, we have a Pride Day on the 8th of June. So enough of the shameless self-promotion. Moving on to what we are going to be hopefully trying to demo today. So this is a very simple, very slimmed down version of how you can develop a chatbot using Sveltekit. And it's simple as, actually, before I go to, does anybody know what Sveltekit is? Or do we have anybody that doesn't know? Anybody that doesn't know what Sveltekit is? Shame. Shame. Okay, just in case, I'll put that there. So we're mainly going to be using a library called Vercel, AI SDK. They have recently also released a new kind of like a feature of the library where it allows you to actually have server React components rendering the chatbot. So you can also show fancy stuff as well. Unfortunately, not available yet for Sveltekit. Hopefully soon that will become available. We can also see on the fly the chatbot to be able to render Svelte components within the chat as well. And it's simple as pretty much installing npmi AI. We're also going to be using another library called Langchain. Has anybody heard of Langchain? Yeah, good. Perfect.
That last slide, sorry, Nico, that last slide. So can you use Hugging Face, Langchain, OpenAI through Vercel SDK?
Yes, you can. They support that as well. It's one of the LLMs that support as well. I think they have about.
Oh, yeah, it's Anthropic of this.
Yeah. I think there must have around like more than 10 different lenses or something like that. They actually become quite good, and they released the generative AI not so long ago, which is really promising. Unfortunately, again, my laptop doesn't work, so I can't show you these kind of things. So you have to go through with me these very boring slides. We've got to be using Langchain as well. Langchain is an open source, again, library, if you like, that supports natural language processing on top of the LLMs. And it is very handy because it abstracts a lot of the hard work that we would normally have to do ourselves when we're using AI or different AI models and prompts as well. Feel free as well to contribute to this talk. I'm not very, I'm only kind of like I'm only touching the surface of these things because I have to use them on a project now. But if you want to, if you want to interrupt and say more, please feel free to do so. Any? No?
Just saying, if you've got the CPU power, you can use embeddings in Langchain as well.
Yes, yes, you can indeed. So, how do we do that? Simple, as spinning up a Sveltekit app. You know already these commands, how to run a Sveltekit app. And then install Langchain and AI on top of that. Again, we're going to be using some of the tools from Langchain and as well the Vercel SDK AI, which is that AI module there. Okay, so how do we do this? Now, the first thing that we can do, pretty much we only need 2 pages just to spin off an AI chatbot. The fronted page, which is that lovely plus page to Svelte, and of course, our the fronted page, and we also have the server page as well. In this, in the front end Svelte page, it is enough for us to use the use chat hook that comes from the Svelte SDK AI, and because immediately we have access to these lovely modules there or tools there. Input is pretty much, can bind to our form input there, where the user types something, and that can pass the message from the input to the LLM using, again, the AI tool. The messages, which is like a store where we store the different messages between the AI and the user, and as well the handle submit, which is the predefined function that gets triggered when we click send. Everything clear so far? Yeah.
But does the input variable there, does that hold the context of the chat as well?
Yes, I believe so. Yes, yes. And our server-side code, which is our lovely .server TS page. Again, they advise you to follow that kind of like route when you do that, where we can incorporate Langchain as well, and the streaming text response from the Vercel SDK AI. All this lovely code here, all this abstraction lovely code here is what we kind of like need to be able to exchange messages back and forth with the LLM model. In our case, we're using the OpenAI that's come from here. You can subscribe to the OpenAI very easily, get your key. I think you get a free bandwidth of $20, I think, to begin with.
There's no free tier anymore.
There's no free tier anymore. Oh, disappointing.
Pay up front.
Didn't know that. Okay, sorry. Someone else has to pay for my, for my OpenAI key, so I haven't used that for ages. Okay, fair enough. And of course, the stream, that is the distinction between the human message and the AI message that comes again from Langchain. Simple as that, really. Now, what are these kind of like functions here? The runnable sequence is pretty much a recipe for processing text. It tells the program what steps to take with the text, such as breaking into words, identify parts of speech, or analyzing sentiment. And the byte-cycle parser is like a translator for special data. When data comes in a format that's hard to understand, this tool helps turn into something readable and usable for the program. And that's pretty much it. I'm really sorry, but yeah.
Just going back to the last slide, just to want to elongate your talk as much as possible.
Yes.
I think so you could probably try sharing your screen as well. Yeah, I think it would work this time.
Would it? just in case, just in case.
Should I try talk while you're speaking right now?
Yeah, but what if it doesn't work? I'm not going to finish my talk.
I think it will be.
Okay, let's try.
I mean, you can continue to talk about that.
Okay.
I'll ask my question anyway then.
Yeah.
So one of the config values or properties was temperature. For
Yes, the temperature is.
how hot you want the chat to be.
You can say that, yeah.
I mean, genuine question.
How human like you want the
Right.
chat to be, or how robotic? I mean, I suppose that's how I define it.
What's 10 or what's 9 or whatever the highest value?
10 is the human, more
More
like human-like, and less is like more like a. I think so. Am I right?
I think 1 is just like don't hallucinate,
Yes.
don't give me any bullshit, which is like my default. Because anything beyond that, if you go to like 0.6, it just dreams up.
But you can also do it with a prompt. You can say to the AI not to, yeah.
Hang your finger.
I found with the temperature, it's not facts.
Yeah.
You know,
Is it
made up crap.
is it also so that the user can tell that it is definitely a machine? You know, is that another part of the experience? You know, so that you're not.
That's like an ethical question.
I just mean sometimes it's good to know that it's a robotic, that you're speaking to a robot, right? Because then you interact with it differently. You know.
Yeah. No, I get it. I just prefer to have facts.
Right.
Well,
You want it on what?
Not made up stuff. 'Cause, you deviate from that, like the slightest amount I found.
Yeah.
Is it just makes up any crap.
Really? Well.
It's not factual stuff.
Yeah.
I use it for code, so a lot of the time it will just give you the right stuff. But you ask it other questions, it just make up stuff. I think
But
Sorry.
in a way,
You're absolutely right.
just lots of entertaining.
in a way, it has to its creativity. So if you put it into 1, I think it's the other way around. But anyway, it's kind of like it will return the same answer, regardless.
Right.
Right. And if you want, sort of like if you're using it for brainstorming, right? You're using it for creative writing, you want some random.
Yeah.
Right? You don't want the answer to be the same.
Non-deterministic. Yeah.
That's something new.
Sorry, Nico.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, I'm still learning those things, to be honest. So originally, that was the version of the chatbot that I want to show you. You can choose a document, but you can upload that. It doesn't work, by the way. I'm just showing you what it was meant to do. And you can then allow it to, see. So the idea behind is to use a method called RAG. Is the process of allowing your data to be ingested and stored within a database, where the AI can then access that, and you can then ask questions about your data, which is something that to my knowledge, ChatGPT or all these free AI tools, they don't do yet. Of course, you have other AI platforms that they do that for you, like Chat PDF or something like that, that you can upload your data, and you can then ask the AI to answer some questions based on your data. But still, I think you have, because AI is paid service, you have the free tier, but you still have to pay something. Still, they're limited to what they can do. So that was what I wanted to originally show you. And again, because of this issue that I had today, you're going to end up with this, this simple one. Chatbot, you can, once you integrate that, 15 lines of code, how many there are there, you are then able to interact with the chatbot and ask pretty much any questions you like. And that is my very small talk. Yeah.
So can I just start? Every time some information is entered to that form element now, that goes into the readable stream, right? So then from your other slide, it's essentially a continuous stream.
Yes, correct. Correct. Unfortunately, again, because my very good luck today, as usual, as you probably have noticed, I wasn't able to demo you the original app. So maybe there will be a part 2.
Will you go into inspect element and show what the request in the backend?
For the other one?
No, just for this one. Like,
For
if
this
you ask another question, what does the network request look like?
Yeah, if I can load that somehow. Oh, maybe not.
I mean, you could. You mean in DevTools? Yeah, you could.
Oh, you can do DevTools. Okay, yeah, of course.
You need to go into the network tab, I think. If you ask it about Svelte right now.
If I can tell, that would be great.
If you go into the response, like, what does it send and what does it reply with? Pretty much. It does send over all of the messages.
Yeah.
Interesting to try and like change the temperature for a simple question.
Yeah, we can. You definitely can. Shall we do 0.1?
Yeah.
What would you like to ask?
Same question. I guess you could ask it twice so we know what the difference is between the two.
Well, let me copy paste then.
Proper analytical deep dive, dude. Oh, boring.
Okay, good idea.
Oh, Rich got mentioned.
So,
Maybe try and ask him why should I use Svelte? You might have like a different. Oh wow! A lot of
would you like to read that? Yeah.
So yeah, does anyone have any questions for Nico? Yes.
Can I just check that I've understood what the upload thing was supposed to?
Yeah.
Sorry, yes.
The idea there that you would upload a data set that you want ChatGPT to be able to answer questions about, and then that's the topic that the chat is covering. So let's say you had you wanted to do one of those little sort of chatbot things on a website where you were talking about your product or your company or something, and you would use that to upload a bunch of facts about what it is that you do, and then Bob's your uncle, you've got a little chatbot that can say, oh, what are your pricing plans or something, and that's what it's answering. It's not then going to start talking about other people's pricing plans or random other stuff. Have I understood that correctly? That's the idea.
Yeah, but then again, because you're connecting that to the OpenAI, which is, it depends again which LLM you're using. So you can still ask other questions, and it will go and retrieve from whatever knowledge it has been trained on until 2021, I think, OpenAI. But yes, the idea is that you will predominantly use the chatbot to query your data rather than any other data. Hopefully there'll be another talk that will go well this time rather we can demo that. Yeah.
Like, you know,
Nothing really left, just like a thinking screen.
so
Yeah. That was all. Hey, well,
Thanks, Nico. Yeah, so just a couple of things before we leave. We're going to head to a pub now. Nico, what's the nearest pub again? It's called the Castle or the Elephant or something. Yeah, I think it's called the Castle or something. It's in front of Farringdon. So if you just want to hang around and chat more about Sharp or yeah, it's near the Farringdon station, right? It's from.
Yeah.